and you will get a link to this session. Number two, you see a Q&A box at the bottom here, and you guys can put your questions in there, and I will be very happy to answer them at the end. And number three, if for some strange reason I drop out and my computer crashes, I have backup right here, and so I will come back online. You just have to log back in. So I just wanted to mention those three things. And so now I'm going to be sharing a screen with you guys. So basically, we are talking about just getting a hang of ourselves and cultivating healthy habits today. Before I begin, I do want to tell you guys a little bit about the Lighthouse. If you guys don't know, if you guys already know, then maybe you can just drink some water while I talk. We are a mental health and wellness center in Suqeim. We are about 30 clinicians, one of the largest centers in the region, with psychology, psychiatry, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy. One thing I do want to say to everyone is that we do have a lot of different support groups happening right now. We have 17 support groups, and the way our support groups run is they're actually led by psychologists. And so you actually get a lot of support, and they're free of charge. And so while you do have a community of people who are going through a shared experience, you still have someone with expertise, and we only have senior clinicians lead those support groups. So I would really encourage you to go on our social media, our website, etc., to learn more about those support groups. I'm not going to tell you much more about everything else, but I encourage you to look into mental health first aid and all the other things that we do, and our grief groups, etc. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about habits and how do you really just set some goals. And there are people like, well, what's the difference between a goal and a habit, and an intention and a habit, and an addiction and a habit? And hopefully I can give you guys some input on these things. Let me just remove this. Input on these things, and by the time you sort of leave here, you guys have some idea of what you need to be thinking about when it comes to creating healthy habits and letting go of the negative one. I think a lot of times what people end up doing is that they start to have really good, energy and good intentions, and I want to lose weight and I'm going to start eating healthy, but they haven't actually gotten underneath that negative behavior to understand, why is it that I'm actually engaging in this behavior? Because unless you replace it with the same thing, you're constantly going to be drawn towards that negative habit. If you don't understand that you're not a morning person and you keep setting that goal for 6 a.m. gym, you're constantly going to be letting yourself down. So we really want to understand some of the components of habits and how habits work. What's the science of habits? What are some keystone habits? Like if you could pick all the habits of the world and in a self, like which ones should you start off with? I want to give you that. And then what gets in the way of making good habits, just so you know some of your roadblocks, and then tips on how you can actually start to change those. So I'm not going to ask you guys to start exercising 1 hour a day. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that. So let's start with what is a habit? So a habit is an action that has been repeated so many times that it no longer requires conscious thought or effort. They can be healthy, or they can be unhealthy. Healthy is if they are serving your health, your mental health. Unhealthy could be that they're not doing that. Now, if I have the habit of watching Netflix, now all of a sudden it becomes like an automatic thing that I'm doing every night, rather than, I really like the show and now it's been released and I watch 2, episodes per week or something. All of a sudden this is conscious, this is unconscious. If I'm just constantly just engaging in it in a passive way, now it has become a bad habit. And the way our brain works is that it just keeps us from being overwhelmed. Now imagine if you had to get up and think about, should I brush my teeth? Should I shower? This is how I drive to the grocery store. This is how I drive to work. This is what I do with my kids every day. Imagine if you had to think about that every single time. You would be so overwhelmed. And so majority of what we do, some people say 70%, some people say 80%, some people even say 90% of what we do is actually unconscious and is on a loop. So I actually haven't thought through what I do. Every Wednesday, I just show up this way. I'm at a meeting and I'm this one and that one. I'm making a phone call and I'm actually not being very conscious or grounded or intentional in the way I'm acting. That's a habit. And so you can literally live your life on autopilot if you're not setting some things in place to ground yourself or to set some intentions and things of that sort. Now, what's the difference between a habit and an addiction? Now, habits can eventually become addictions. So for example, someone might have a habit that they smoke every time they go out. Okay, they go out and they buy a pack of cigarettes and they smoke only when they are hanging out with their friends. Now, every now and then they might smoke a cigarette at home. This is just a habit at this point. It's a bad habit, but it's not even a habit because they're not doing it every day. But now all of a sudden things have become a little bit stressful. So they're smoking every morning and every evening. Every morning now they wake up and they, without thinking, that's the key word, without thinking, they're now lighting up a cigarette, and right before they go to bed or something, they smoke another one. So this has now become automated. Anytime it becomes automated, it's now starting to become a habit. You do that enough times, and now they might wake up and they say, I need a cigarette. Now that has become, we're now bordering into the space of an addiction. And addiction has a couple things that happen that don't happen necessarily with habit. Addiction, there's a preoccupation, there is intoxication and a tolerance that starts to get built. There is also a compulsion. So that's the same thing as a preoccupation where you're like, oh, if I don't do it, there's like, now I'm constantly thinking, should I have the cigarette? No, I'm not going to have the cigarette. No, I'm not going to have the cigarette. Well, maybe I'll just have one. Anyway, so you're constantly having this internal noise inside of yourself. So now you're moving into the space of an addiction. And then the most sort of hallmark of that would be is that when you stop, you actually can't. You tell yourself, you know what, from tomorrow, I'm not smoking. And you wake up in the morning and the compulsion comes, and then there's a preoccupation, and then you get agitated and you kick the door, the dog, everybody that comes in your way, like you're just agitated. Now we have an addiction that's going to need to break, and that you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper for those habits / addictions. So and I'm hoping that this is not about us breaking habits, but more like making one. Like maybe we're trying to get a little bit more active. We're trying to drink a little bit more water. We're doing all sorts of things. Okay, how can I make that easy for me to engage in healthier habits so the negative ones sort of start to lose their power? And I always tell people that there's many ways to increase the light. One is to focus on the darkness. One is to increase the light. And I just prefer that the more healthy I get, my negative habits just start to lose their power. If I'm exercising, I immediately start to, think a little bit more about, do I really want to eat those chips? Or do I really not want to be hydrated? Like all of a sudden, this stuff starts to lose their power. So that's why I try to improve myself rather than try to break habits. I focus on making good habits and spending the energy in that direction rather than in fighting bad habits. Okay. So what happens in our brain? There's a lot of people that are like, oh man, I meditated for like a week and like nothing happened, and I don't want to meditate anymore. It kind of doesn't work like that. So I want you to imagine that there are pathways in your brain, and they're literal synapses, and the neurons that fire together wire together. When they are wired, a path starts to be formed. Okay. And in order to change a habit, you have to start engaging in the other behavior, or in order to make a habit, you have to do it repeatedly. You have to do it enough times where the pathway starts to get formed. There's all sorts of research done that some people say it's 21 days. And that's why detox centers and, addiction centers all have like this 21, 29 days. In religious practices, they have 40 days or 30 days of fasting. And so there's no set number. All I can say is that it's not a week. And it might be a month. And so usually our body renews itself and sort of regenerates itself every 40 days. So 6 weeks is usually a minimum. However, if it's a really, really sort of difficult habit that you're trying to create, where the default is so wired in the opposite direction, okay, it might be more than that. It might be 12 weeks. But all I can say is that it requires repeated action. And I want you to hold this image in your head. Now you see this paved path. The paved path is how you live your life every single day. Every single day I wake up and I don't drink water. Okay, I do drink water, but I'm just saying most people don't drink water. So every single day you wake up, and for 35 years, you did not drink water when you first woke up. Guess what? That neural pathway is locked up. Okay, that path is paved completely. Now, when you're trying to build a new habit, you're literally starting to walk on that grass for the first time. There's no path yet. Then another day you walk. There's no path yet. Another day you walk. There's no path yet. And then you walk and you walk and you drink water every morning and every morning and every morning and every morning and then you start to see this paved path, this dirt path starting to be formed. Soon enough, the park, which is our mind, says, you know what? A lot of people seem to be taking a shortcut around this corner. We're going to pave this path. And when you repeat a habit again and again and again and again, even if you're not walking back and forth, so maybe I don't drink a whole glass of water, but maybe I just take a few sips of water, but I show up every single day. I walk that path once instead of walking it back and forth. My mind says, all right, someone is walking this path every single day. We're going to start paving this path. And that's what the mind does. It starts to pave that path in your mind. And then what starts to happen is that the brain says, you know what? No one seems to be using this paved path around this corner. We can just put a bench on there, put some shrubs on there, maybe plant a tree on there, and it starts to lose its power. So the habit that I have of not drinking water starts to lose its power, where the path that actually has me drinking water starts to gain power. The most important thing that I can communicate to you guys in this moment or in this talk is that you have got to show up every single day. Now, when I started meditating, my sister told me just do 10 seconds. Do 10 seconds, but just show up for 10 seconds. Maybe your goal is 5 minutes of meditation a day, but you know what? You don't really feel like it. You don't have it inside of you today. Show up for 10 seconds, because that's like you walking that path one day. The brain still gets the signal. This is important to this person, especially in the first 3 to 4 weeks. You want to try to lock that in every single day, because the neurons are getting closer and closer and closer. And then you start to find the bonding happening, and then it starts to lock into each other. So that's what I want to say, is that it takes time to build a new and healthy lifestyle. It takes time to build new habits. We are too used to getting everything like this, and we see successful people on Instagram and on social media, but we don't realize how much they have to show up for themselves every single day. So what are some things that you can do to start to do that? And so these are, some habits are more important than others. And people are like, what are some good habits? And according to research, these are called keystone habits, where this one habit has a ripple effect, and it causes a chain reaction in all sorts of other habits, where when you start to exercise, immediately you start to think about your hydration. Immediately you just are like, well, you know what, maybe I'll just have a salad instead of that bag of chips, or you know what, I'm going to have a tea instead of drinking that Diet Coke, or you know what, I'm going to start maybe smoking less because I really want to build my stamina. The exercising and movement, that commitment you make, if you take all of your energy and focus on that, all the other habits start to happen by themselves. And then you just start to build more momentum that way. So instead of saying, I'm going to drink more water, I'm going to lose more weight, forget all of these habits. Just focus on getting your exercise in every single day. In some sort of way, and immediately you will start to see all the other things happening with a little bit more ease. We got to build that muscle. Another thing is making your bed. I have no idea why this is, but I think it really just gets you in the mood of like, I got something done. There's a Navy SEAL I think he wrote a book called Make Your Bed. I think that's what it's called. But he basically says that when you wake up, that's like the first check that you do is that I did something already and I did something well. So making your bed in a precise way is something that just gives you that sense of accomplishment from the moment you wake up. And that's just a good way to start your day. Having family dinners. It's not just about dinners. People who eat family dinners, they tend to be closer. They tend to be more connected. They tend to be less obese. They tend to have higher confidence, higher self-esteem. So there's all this research done on people who have family dinners. Now, if you are going to do that family dinner thing, guys, put your cell phones away because it doesn't work if you have your cell phones and you're eating at the same time. So cell phones do disrupt this whole Keystone thing. Meditating is literally especially in a world that we live in today, guys, where we are conditioned now to be hectic. We are sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Inundated with information. When we are living in such a world, we need to stop ourselves and anchor ourselves and breathe and focus and then get on with it. So people usually say you want to have at least 5 minutes a day, build up to 30 minutes a day. Listen, guys, when I started meditating, I remember telling my sister, it was like, imagine a field of 200 stallions, okay, running at full throttle, and then imagining reining them all in at the same time. That's how much inertia was inside of me at that point. Like, I feel like I'm going to vomit if I sit still because I'm just so used to moving. So I just started sitting still by 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And now I can honestly say that I can even do an hour of meditation if I have the right binaural beats and things like that. I can sit for an hour and I can just be in that state. And you want to anchor yourself in your breath, but some people can't do breath. So one meditation is you take your middle finger, you hold your hands and you close your eyes and you focus on the middle finger, okay? And yeah, not in that way, but just in the middle finger. You keep that finger pressed with each other, and that gives you something in the outer world to focus on, because some people can't focus on their breath. This talk is not about meditation, but I'm just giving you that this is something you can do. Having a daily routine and a rhythm. If you look at nature, everything in nature has a rhythm and a routine. And so you want to find rhythm to your day. If you're doing this one day and that one day and this one day and that one day, you're not gonna feel in your power. Your power is fragmented and frazzled. You want to have a rhythm and a sense of predictability and a sense of, what you can expect in your day. And then having a food journal. There's a lot of people, I mean, they go in, they see a dietitian. The dietitian says, I want you to write every single thing that you put in your mouth on a piece of paper. And so you don't even realize how much you're grazing all day. Oh, it's just 4 grapes. Oh, it's just 2 M&Ms. Oh, it's just 1 chip. And then when you think, oh, I have to write that 1 chip down, you stop writing it and you realize how many calories you actually gain through that food journal. Anything that you're trying to manage and you start to journal it, whether it's a thought journal, a food journal, a values journal, that will actually increase its power, and you will actually see the results just by becoming more conscious of it. So these are some keystone habits. What gets in the way of making good habits? Well, first is denial. Oh, no, I'm okay. I'm just smoking 2 cigarettes a day. Okay, yeah, that person is not going to change. So there are a lot of people, well, how can I get my husband to change? How can I get my wife to drink more water? That's not your thing. If they're in denial and they can't, you can only take the horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink that water. And so you can only put the person in the game. You can coach them, but you can't play the game for them. So that's all I can say about that, is that denial is the biggest sort of reason why people don't improve. But also people try to change without trying to understand the issue. They haven't gotten underneath it. Some people say, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to no sugar. But they haven't realized that food is not food for them. Food is comfort. Food is a friend. And when that boss yells at them or they have a fight with their partner and they go grab that, cookie dough and they just start eating it. That actually, I'm like talking about myself right now. I love cookie dough. And so when you start just, you don't realize that you're looking for that dopamine, you're looking for that comfort. That has nothing to do with sugar addiction. That has to do with comfort and me wanting to numb myself from those difficult feelings in that moment. Unless I replace that with something that when I am feeling super low, I am going to do this instead, I am constantly going to be finding myself reaching out for sugar. It isn't about food. It isn't about sugar in that moment. It is about comfort. It is about numbing. And that's what I need to solve for. So when people don't try to understand that and they try to make these resolutions and they try to, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, you haven't figured out why you're actually engaging in those negative behaviors. But people are like, oh, I'm going to exercise every day, but then they don't change their sleep habits. They're sleeping at, 1 a.m. and they haven't, they're looking at blue light right before they go to bed. They don't feel rested in the morning. They'll never work out. So you've got to get underneath it, because stress and conflict will actually make us resort to our default. Remember that pathway I showed you earlier? When we are under pressure, our brain and our body actually needs more energy. So we are gonna reach for the sugar. We're gonna reach for the high carb, high comfort foods. We're gonna want to say, well, I don't really feel, because it takes a lot more willpower in those moments to maintain that habit than to just succumb to our default. That 40 years of walking one way or doing one thing is actually, you're going to resort back to that. So in times of high stress and conflict, you have got to gear up even more and become even more conscious of, I am not going to lose my habit of exercising just because it's a stressful time. I don't know what I also have to give up because my defaults are about to kick in right now. And then low blood sugar also weakens your willpower. And there are periods in your day where our sugar levels sort of dip, and you want to have like some dates around, or you want to have, something around that is healthy to just bring your sugar levels up, because that's when we usually make some bad decisions. That's why happy hour is at 5 p.m. because we've used up all of our willpower, and then people just, go drink. Or we go grab that donut from the kitchen in our office place at around 11 or 12 o'clock, or we go grab that candy because our sugar levels are low at that time. There's a beautiful book called Willpower. Just read about it. It's a little bit controversial because some people argue it, but it makes sense for me because I experienced that. When I've made decisions all day, when I have worked all day and my sugar levels are dropping, there's nothing between me and that Snickers bar. Like, it's going to happen. So constantly maintaining a regular sugar level is going to help you stay in your power a little bit more. So what can we do to cultivate? I'm looking at time. Oh, good time. So what can we do to cultivate good habits, okay, and break bad ones? And then I will come to your questions, I promise. All right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set an intention and link that intention to your identity. When you decide and you are clear about your motivation, then you make intentions very differently. You do things very differently. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, this is what most people, like the majority of the world's population, will actually have that as their New Year's resolution. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, I want you to think about what type of person is that is the ideal weight that you want. Are they fit? Are they in their optimal health? Do they have stamina? Do they have endurance? Do they have control? What type of person is that? Spend some time on that exercise. What type of person maintains their ideal weight? That person is the person you want to be. This is not about you losing weight. This is about you moving in to an identity that you want to be. So when I think about meditating, I'm not thinking about, I want to meditate because it's like the cool thing to do these days. I'm meditating because I want to be a more grounded person. I want to be calm under fire. I want to be a good mother. I want to be a steady partner. I want to be a grounded leader. Okay, now this is what I want. The path to that is I've got to show up for my meditation every day. I'm more likely going to show up for that meditation because it's linked to my values. And when you link it to your values and the ideal person that you want to be, you're more likely to follow through than if you keep it superficial, where I want to meditate because my therapist told me, or I want to lose weight because I want to fit into these jeans on my birthday. Like, it's not going to have that same power that I want to be a good mother, right? You can imagine that the power hold of this identity is very different. And then set your intention. And the way they set the intention, and there's a book, it's a really amazing book, which I'm going to write about on my Instagram soon, it's called The Intention Experiment. And the way you set an intention is you already say, I am a healthy, grounded, in control, happy person who has energy, who has health. Okay, this is who I am. And you do that and you feel it. You embody that experience. So most people think about visualization as like this visual thing that's happening and they're watching a movie. No, visualization should be an embodied experience. And that's what intention is. You embody the intention of how does it feel to be healthy? How does it feel to have energy? How does it feel, right? When you do that, that's when your frequency starts to shift. And you do that every single day. You do it every single day where you say, I am. And some people say that I am is like a magnet. Anything that you follows I am will become your destiny. It will come looking for you. If you say, I am tired, guess what? You're going to remain tired. If you say, I am, I had a productive day, which is the same thing as I am tired, but you need to change your language to a little bit more positive. All of a sudden, your energy starts to shift and you are not as tired. You are feeling like you accomplished something today. That's one thing that I would just want to mention about intention. I actually have said something on intentions on my Instagram account, but I can't remember if it was a story, but I will put something on there for you guys. I also want you to speak in positives. You see what I just did. I am tired versus I had a productive day. I want you to avoid negative statements. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, no, I want you to say, I am my ideal weight. I am a healthy weight. I am at a weight where I have energy. I am exercising every day rather than I don't want to be lazy. The universe, your mind, your psyche, your unconscious does not hear the word don't. Do not use don't in your goal setting. Don't has a aversive energy where want has an energy where you're leaning into something. This is fear-based. This is love-based. So when you say, I don't want to get sick, the universe is hearing, I want to get sick. So instead of saying, I don't want to get sick, say, I want to be super healthy. I don't want to lose my temper. I want to be calm and grounded. I don't want to feel heavy. I am light and joyful. You see, this is where you want to use the language of want rather than don't want. Link it to your identity. You become a superpower intention maker. And the book is Intention Experiment. She also wrote the book, The Field, which is awesome, actually. You're going to have to know yourself through this process, because to be more conscious, you're going to have to be more conscious. And that's why if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. If you don't know yourself, you're going to constantly be coming up against a wall. If you keep telling yourself you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. to go work out, and you're not a morning person, not going to happen. So you've got to observe the old habit and what it's doing to your life. Look out for feelings, thoughts, sensations. Just watch it before you try to change it. I might watch it, I'm on my phone too much around my children. Maybe that's a habit I'm trying to change. Let's just say that I get drawn into my phone for some reason. Okay, why am I doing that? Okay, I'm bored of my kids. It's okay to say that, parents. Like, sometimes they're just boring. Like, they're not doing anything that is of interest to you. And so you feel a little bit disengaged, so you want to be entertained. Okay, now I'm looking for entertainment in that moment rather than engaging with my kids in a way. So, okay, see what it's doing to you. It keeps us disengaged. It makes them feel I'm not interested. It makes me feel guilty at the end of the day because I wasn't a witness to their day. Pay attention to all of what is happening when you engage in that habit, because that's where you're going to start to troubleshoot. Because if I know that I get bored with my kids and then I reach out for my phone, then I'm going to start to do things that are going to keep me a little bit more engaged, or I'm going to build a muscle for boredom. Okay, be bored. You don't have to be entertained every moment of your life. That there might be periods where you just notice them, and you notice their joy, and you notice their story, and you notice their expressions, rather than feeling like this should serve you in some way. And so that's what you want to start to do, is start to become conscious of why you're engaging in that behavior and what you can do to troubleshoot about that, and journal about this. Journal about your triggers. Boredom is a big trigger for many, many, many bad habits. We do not, as a people, we do not know how to be bored anymore. Boredom feels like death to us. If I'm not doing anything, I'm super anxious. It feels like an existential moment, right? I need to be entertained. I need to be fed. I need to be doing. I need to be productive. And just sitting there doing nothing but watching your child might actually increase your anxiety. Build the muscle. Build the muscle. Hold, because remember, boredom also has a pathway. And if you can actually just sustain that boredom, you will probably find, a whole lot of beautiful things on that path of boredom. But we just don't actually allow ourselves to do nothing and to just be in that moment. And then you may actually want to look at your routine. You might find that yourself, I'm actually really good in the morning when I'm with the kids, but I don't use my phone in the morning. But when I'm with my kids in the afternoon, that's when I use the phone. Why am I doing that? So you start to pay attention. What happens in the afternoon? In the afternoon, it could be that you gave all day. And that's a moment where you want to take for yourself. That's a moment where you want to disengage. All right, now you know that you shouldn't be around your kids at that time. Maybe you need to build in 30 minutes where you just go lock yourself up in your car or in your bathroom, where you don't talk to anybody, you don't do anything, and you fuel your need for entertainment, distraction, numbing, whatever. And then you go back out to the world, and then you'll be a little bit more engaged than trying to juggle too many things at the same time. So you want to pay attention to your trigger, your cue, which is the day, the time, etc., and then the routine in which you're engaged in. And then you want to break that. You want to see what it's serving, and then you want to give that to yourself before you engage in that negative habit. So there is a science to this, guys, but it does require you to be a lot more conscious about your habits and your behaviors. You've got to plan it. You've got to have an implementation plan and not a deadline. A lot of people are like, I want to lose weight by January 20th. Don't do that. Like I said, if it's linked to an identity, it's a lifestyle now. There's no deadline, there's no goal, there's no nothing. There's an implementation plan. Every morning, I'm going to do this. Every afternoon, I'm going to do this. Every evening, I'm going to do this, period. And that's it, because I'm trying to change my lifestyle, because I'm trying to change my identity. Okay, so you need to make sure you drop it into a time slot. If it's not in your time slot, it will never happen. There are 101 things that are going to show up in your schedule, and you're gonna be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna do this instead. No, you're gonna pay yourself first. You're gonna do what you committed to first, and then you're gonna get to that. And so if you said, I'm gonna turn off my phone for an hour a day, first see if that is something that you can do, because you just want to be in the moment fully, and you find yourself fragmented even when the phone is not in your hand. You just find that there's a little bit of your attention that goes that way. Then start with 10 minutes and then move up, and then just say at 1 p.m. every day, I'm going to turn my phone off. That's it. So literally set an alarm for yourself where you actually are doing that. It needs to have a time and a place to live in your schedule, and you might need to put reminders in, and you've got to stick to the schedule. And so if someone says, oh, listen, I have a really urgent call that comes up, and can you say, well, can it wait till 1:20? I can't see you at 1 o'clock, but I can log on at 1:15. Fight for that time, because you want to stick to that. Remember that pathway. We just want to create this automated response at 1 o'clock, click phone off. We want to do it with such an ease and automation. And so in the beginning, especially in the first 4 weeks, you just want to stick to a time slot rather than trying to find 10 minutes in your day. Stick it in time and a place in your schedule. Troubleshoot beforehand. Plan for any obstacles that come your way, and then what you might face along. So think about the last time you tried to do something, and when you tried to stop that, what got in the way? So people who are like, oh, I tried to stop smoking, but then like I hang out with this guy who's like always smoking. So maybe just don't hang out with that guy for a while and just say, I'll Zoom call you, and can you just not smoke for that 1 hour when we're talking to each other, because it's just too much of a trigger for me. And I think if it's a supportive friend, then he will understand. So what got in the way of you doing that? Was it that every single time you went out, you smoked? When you were with a certain person? Was it because you had, cigarettes accessible to you in the house? So you want to eliminate all of these things, and you want to write an if-then situation. If I hang out with this person, then I am going to make sure that he doesn't have cigarettes, or we do not sit in the smoking section. Okay, so there should be some sort of contingency plan here, because maybe it's just not a way that you can live. You can't avoid this person. So maybe you just have to say that we have to sit in the non-smoking section when we go out, but I will see you, but I just can't be around cigarettes. And then you've got to have a plan of bounce back. You will for sure fall off the track. You will fall off the path and go back to the old paved path, but you've got to build in that plan. So my plan is that, there are just times when I've just gone through so much, or emotionally I feel drained, emotionally I feel heavy. I'll give myself 2 days. 2 days of walking the old way, where I don't drink water every morning, or whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing. But on that third day, I better show up. Or I usually my plan is that just take a sip. You don't have to drink the whole thing. Or do you know what? You don't have to go to the gym, but try to get in 5,000 steps. Like just something where I am showing up for myself for that goal, even if it's a little bit. And if 5,000 sounds like a lot, because it is actually a lot, but maybe you can just say, I just need to do 500 steps today, but I cannot be sedentary. So I'm making some move in that direction. And then break it down into micro habits. I've already said this to you guys throughout the talk, but let me give you a little bit of chemistry concept, which is activation energy. The bigger the goal, the more the energy. Okay, so you need a certain amount of energy. This is something in chemistry where you need a certain amount of, for example, when you have matches, if I just take that match and strike it on that matchbox, it's not going to light. If I strike it hard, then we have activation energy and the fire happens. If your goal is so big, you're going to need that much energy to get started. If your goal is this big, then you're going to need only this much energy to get started. I'm going to go with this one, because this is basically how much energy I have. And we need to just be realistic with ourselves. So instead of saying, I'm going to work out 1 day a week or 1 hour a day, just say, I'm going to do 5K steps, or I'm going to do 3K steps. You first have to measure how sedentary are you? And if you're literally getting 1,000 steps a day, then you want to just move it to 1,500, just 500 more steps, you could do that. And then you want to move it to 1,700. Then you want to move it to 19. Soon, you'll be walking 7,000 steps and you don't even know it. When I actually gave birth, I remember like thinking about the treadmill. It was just like, oh my God. Thinking about the gym, it was like, oh, I ain't doing it. So I literally removed every obstacle in my way. And I put the treadmill, like seriously, where I wake up every morning and I look at that treadmill. I put the shoes on the treadmill. I put all of these things where I just said, you know what, just start with 7 minutes. I don't know where I came up with 7 minutes, but I just came up with that. And I said, I'm going to do 7 minutes a day. And then even if I felt like, well, come on, Sal, you can do, 15 today. I didn't do it. I only did 7 minutes because the trick the Jedi mind tricks that I was doing with myself, I said, if I go to 9 minutes, I can never go back to 7. So are you really ready to commit to that 9 minutes? No, you're not. So stay to 7, stay with 7, stay with 7. When I said, okay, I'm now ready to commit to 9, then I committed to 9 minutes. Then when I was ready to commit, and then soon enough, I didn't even know it. I was at 80, but I didn't realize I was at 80 because I was only going from 75 to 80. I wasn't thinking about starting from 0 to 80. So at one point I looked back, I was like, oh my God, I've been walking for an hour and a half and I didn't even know it because I was only nudging myself. And I didn't think that, 90 minutes was going to be an hour and a half. And so this is what you want to start to do is tiny habits that you're going to try to make. And then lastly, guys, you want to have an environment that is supportive to your habit. Okay. Now, I just want to show you guys, for me, hydration is very, very important. And it's something I struggle with. Like, I just don't like to hydrate. So right on my desk, I have a water bottle. I have my tea. I have my lemon water. And then I have my ginger tea. So this is literally what my desk looks like. And that way I've eliminated most of my obstacles here. For me, hydration was very important. I don't like drinking water. I like drinking tea. Okay, then I put a tea kettle in my room. So it literally stares at me. I just go click warm water, drink tea, and that's it. So this is how you start to create an environment that's going to help you achieve your goals. If you are actually buying junk food and then trying to oh, well, I just won't eat it. It's only for my kids or it's only for this person. You're literally reducing your willpower every single time you open that closet and you see those cookies, willpower less, because you're restraining yourself every single time. So you don't want to do that. You also want to introduce multiple layers of accountability. When I first started working out, I remember just having a trainer. Now you can do them on Zoom. You can have a trainer that this is where you're checking in with that person and they charge you. And I made sure that my trainers charged me because I just didn't trust my internal willpower. And then, oh, shoot, man, I'm gonna have to pay 400 dirhams. I might as well just, okay. So then all of a sudden you have this other thing sort of helping you build that muscle. If you want to keep an environment that is encouraging and supportive, increase the greenery. Buy flowers for yourself, have aromatherapy. These are all things that I keep at my desk because they help me stay calm and they help me stay grounded. And then I'm not moving into a difficult place where then I might go for the sugar. If you are trying to be productive, turn off your Wi-Fi. There's a lot of people that do that. Just turn off the Wi-Fi. I need to focus on creating this document and I don't need Wi-Fi for it. And so I'm just not even going to have Wi-Fi. Eat in smaller plates for people who are trying to lose weight. The bigger the plate, the more the things you want, and just eat in one portion. This is what I'm going to eat, even if I'm hungry after this, which I won't be. It takes 10 minutes for the brain to communicate to the mind. So I'm going to eat this much. This is a good portion. And then I'm going to wait 10 minutes. If I'm still hungry, then I will eat more. So you want to start to build some of these things in your environment. Stay in non-smoking hotel rooms so you're not drawn to, maybe there are some people that I heard that actually smoke only when they travel. And that is a cue for them. And that's a trigger for them. So stay in non-smoking rooms. And then change the main screen of your phone. There's a lot of people that are struggling with productivity because of their social media habits. Drop it into the corner of your phone and build in some layers of consciousness before you. Because what we do is we turn it on and then where the thumb lands is where our social media things are, but what you want to do is you want to put it in the third page of the fourth folder, and then you want to move it around. So you're constantly confusing yourself. And then you say, well, no, I don't really want to engage in social media. Make it hard for yourself to engage in the negative habit. Make it easier for yourself to engage in the positive habit. These are the two Instagram accounts that I contribute to. There's other Instagram accounts. This is an old slide. Sorry, guys, I didn't update this. But we have, for parents, we have an Instagram account. For young adults, for teens, etc. We have another Instagram account. And then for emotional intelligence, we have another Instagram account. So these are all the different Instagram accounts, but this is the one I contribute to. These are the two main ones that I contribute to. So now we have 10 minutes, and I can answer some of your questions. So I'm going to be just reading the questions here, so I'm not zoning out. I just want to let you know that I'm reading them. So someone said, what's wrong with Netflix? Netflix isn't a habit, it's life. Yeah, that probably is a denial type of question. There is nothing wrong with Netflix, just like there's nothing wrong with alcohol, and there's nothing wrong with our mobile phones, or there's nothing wrong with social media. It is when you start to use it to numb difficult feelings, when you start to use it where you're not accomplishing your goals. There's so many people that are like, oh, I wish I was more productive, or I wish I could read more. But then every night they're sitting in front of Netflix. Yeah, not good, because it's getting in the way of you living the life that you want and being the person that you want. So that person probably has a problem. I have Netflix. I love Netflix, but there's certain shows that I watch, and then I watch them, and there are even days where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to binge watch this. I'm going to just watch one session after. But this is not how I live my life. I will read every night. I will wake up every morning and meditate. So there are times where people are like, I just don't have time. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to hang out with my husband or wife. I don't have time. But then well, how much are you spending on your phone? How much time are you spending on social media? And how much time are you spending on Netflix? And all of a sudden it's like 4 hours. Yep, there's the time. So that's the problem with Netflix. So no, there's no problem with Netflix. It's how you use Netflix. That's the problem. So can shopping become an addiction? Absolutely. Anything that has a dopamine release, social media, shopping, eating, drinking, smoking, anything that you are doing to get that high can become an addiction. I know people that have actually become, there's one client that actually told me that he is addicted to grocery shopping. Like, he loves going into the grocery store and buying grocery items. And he just likes the orderliness of grocery stores. He likes knowing that there's so many things around. This is a place of choices. This is a place of order. He feels comfort when he goes there. And he spends thousands and thousands of dirhams on things that he doesn't need. That's a problem. We are now in the addiction zone. Can you control it? If you have this idea that I want to go to Spinneys and then you don't go, can you do that? No. He is compelled to go. Okay, now we are in the land of addiction. So if you are compelled to do anything and you can't stop, and you're spending thousands, and now you're starting to hide those groceries or hide those shopping bags, there's also an element of secrecy in many of the addictions, is that they're like, oh, I better not tell anyone this. And there's almost like, oh, I'm embarrassed to show this to people. I can't believe I spent this much money. That is in the land of an addiction. So anything that releases dopamine, which can be benign in the lives of other people. For me, shopping, no problem. I can't stand it, so I'm good. And social media, no problem. I'm watching it. I'm not addicted yet. And so I'm watching these things, but usually if it's releasing, for example, water, drinking is not going to become an addiction, right? It's not going to, like, it doesn't release any dopamine. So we're not going to be, oh, I'm constantly thinking about water. No, it's not. And so that actually is what you want to look for, the dopamine release. And then when are you doing it? Is it when you're having a really bad day and then you just go online and then is there a secret that is associated with that? Great, great. Somebody said, is it recorded? Yes, it is. How does one start meditating? So there's a great app called Fit Mind, which I really loved. It was like a boot camp for your brain. And you just want to think about meditation as brain gym. For me, meditation, when I considered it training for my mind, I was just more inclined to do it. I have an athlete archetype. And so whenever there's like, a training involved of some sort, I tend to be more engaged with that. So you literally are building neural pathways in the frontal lobe. So you just want to show up for that. Like I said, you want to focus on the breath. There needs to be an anchor point. The Fit Mind app is actually a great app, which is different from Ombana or Happy Place or Calm or any of these, other things that are out there. The Fit Mind app actually says, today we're just going to focus on your breath. And then for 2 minutes, we just focus on the breath, turn off the app, then you go the next day. They actually have a 30-day program where they build you up. And they start with just pay attention to your breath. And you just do that. When the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. When the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. When the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. Most people have this fallacy that when you meditate, because I look like this, everybody thinks I'm having no thoughts. I have like 9 million thoughts that show up when I close my eyes. And so that's what that fallacy is, that I can't meditate. I have too many thoughts. Yeah, welcome to the world of 7 billion people who feel the same way, probably 7.8 billion people. The thought of not having a thought is actually not the point of meditation. It's literally to train. The thought comes, you let it go. The thought comes, you let it go. The thought comes, you let it go. Bring it back to the breath. And what you're doing is you're literally lifting a muscle in the frontal lobe. You're literally building a muscle of the observer self. And then when your husband or your wife or someone says something negative to you, the thought will show up in your brain as, I cannot believe he said that. And then you're going to say, I'm going to let it go. That's the observer self. And that starts to develop when you meditate. And that way you choose your thoughts. I'm not going to feed this one. I'm not going to let you take my mojo today. Never mind. And so that's the idea of having an empty mind doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You will never, ever, 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 ever be without thought, ever. Unless you reach nirvana, which, like I said, most of us are not going to. We are actually all going to be struggling with bringing them back. But what's going to happen is that when you show up every day, thought, breath, thought, breath, thought, breath, thought, breath, the point where you stay on your breath is going to be maybe a little bit longer as you build that muscle. So now instead of like, I'm thinking about my breath, I'm with my breath, and then the thought shows up, and then I come back to the breath, maybe 2 seconds I stay on here. And the whole goal is for us to stay on the breath a little bit longer, and that's it. And the whole goal is for us to be able to see our thoughts and say, wow, woo, the mind is on today. It's got a whole lot going on. And then bring it back to the breath. And then you see the thoughts and you're like, woo, bring it back to the breath. That's it. That's meditation, guys. If you know how to breathe, you know how to meditate. But Fit Mind is the app. I'm going to go to the bottom. Let's see. My time to not. I need apps to manage my time to not forget. You can just put it in your Google Calendar as a reminder. So if you have a calendar on your phone, I actually just have the calendar app on my, just what comes with the phone, and I just put reminders on there. And then if you have a Fitbit, this thing buzzes, and that's time for me to meditate, or it's time for me to drink my water, or whatever it is that you're doing. So you don't need these complicated app guides. Then you just have to then remember to use the app. That's a whole other habit. So just do what you already are doing and add something to it. You're more likely to follow through on your goals and your habits if you link it to something you're already doing. If I say I'm going to drink water, but then I don't keep it at my desk. But if I keep it on my desk, but I don't sit at my desk, that's going to become a whole lot harder. So just link it to something that you're already doing. I put my vitamins in my washroom where my makeup is. I know I'm going to wear my makeup every day. So I'm just going to put the vitamins right there or put it right by my toothbrush because I know I'm going to brush my teeth every day. And then I take my vitamins right there. There's a bottle of water. I drink it, put my vitamins, and then I'm off with it. So link it to something you're already doing, and you're more likely to do that than you're trying to form a whole new habit and a whole new app and a whole new way of doing things. Yeah, so someone said, if you have something that has developed over 10 years, can you change that? Yes, it's just going to be harder. So if I might say, well, drinking water is going to take 6 weeks. If you've been doing something for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, something, just know that that has a very strong pathway developed. And so you want to really avoid engaging in that and just stay with things that are going to be conducive to your well-being rather than engaging in that habit. So avoid the triggers as much as possible, avoid the cues or the routine, anything that has to do with that as much as possible, and focus on building the new habit. So you will have that pathway. It will always be paved. So even if they put a bench there and for example, imagine that that highway is like a Sheikh Zayed highway in your brain. Okay, it's paved, ain't going anywhere because it's a really strong habit. For me, for example, my really strong habit is like I might get shouting and angry. That's just my default, right? For me to be grounded and calm, it's a little bit harder because it's just not who I am as a person. This is not like, I think I was born with that kind of energy, with this kind of intensity. So in order for me to be grounded, I'm really going to have to try hard, but I have got to look out for that Sheikh Zayed highway of, intensity, because even if sand covers it or shrubs cover Sheikh Zayed Road because no one is using Sheikh Zayed Road anymore, and you're really trying to use the side roads because you're more grounded and you're more calm, at any point, the wind can come, the stress can come and blow the sand off, blow the shrubs off, the highway is still there. So you really want to watch for those default habits that you have, because those are going to be literally like reprogramming yourself. And that's just going to be harder. It's just going to be a harder thing to do. However, it is doable. It's just harder. And so that's why we really want to, if you have children, you want to do these things early in life for them. You want to create some of these habits early in life for them, because those habits, for example, exercise has always just been me, because I was exercising probably since the age of 8. I was a very active person. And then I started doing formal sports or runner when I was 11 years old. From 11 all the way through my life, in my college years, I was running, I was exercising. And now when I don't exercise, I just feel like, I can't take it. I can't. It's making me crazy. So you want to create some default habits in kids, because those will be the ones that pull them all the time. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. So we all have good default habits. Brushing our teeth is a good default habit, but we all have bad default habits too. So just know that it takes time to build those. So you just have to be patient and persistent. Absolutely patient and persistent. You need to learn how to troubleshoot, learn the triggers, learn the cues. Yeah, somebody thanked for the boredom. Willpower. If you guys go on my Instagram account, you will see all these books that I recommended. The intention experiment, the field is not on there yet. So I will put those on, but willpower is on there. I think there's only one book called Willpower, actually. I don't think there's more than that. So a lot of people, there's a couple people that said anger. Anger is, I lose control during my anger and then I take it out on my children. Yeah, this is you out of control. And this is basically a sign from God, me sitting here, that you said, you know, that you need to get a grip and get a control of that. And trust me, I have 4 children, and there are days where I have just lost it and then cried and then asked for forgiveness. And, you know, but it happens once every decade, I would say, that where I really just spiral out of control. But then I have to see what I did. What did I do? What systems did I not set up? How did my kids not know what to do? How are my kids? And then knowing my children, knowing who they're going to trigger me, I'm not going to show up to them completely dead and depleted and then expect them not to, you know, annoy me or irritate me. Like, no, this is where the oxygen mask needs to come on to me before I go sit with them at the end of the day, because I just don't want to be mean. I want to be interested. I want to be curious. So I take time for myself. I literally stare at the wall at one point. I might open my balcony. I might look out the window, but I don't go to my kids right after work. I really do take time to reboot myself before I see them. And if you have anger issues, then you have life issues, because you're not doing life in a way that is systematized, that is supporting you. You are going against life, and you're going against your nature, and you're going against, and you're overloading some of these things, and you're not giving enough to yourself. And so that's where the systems have to be built in, where you give to yourself so you don't take it out and you don't become resentful and you don't do things that then make you feel guilty. How do you persuade someone to change? You don't. Yeah, you just do what you do and you hope that they do what they do. You can give them information, you can, you know, show them this talk, you can show them the benefits of that healthy habit, but the best way to have people change is that you change. And then they're inspired by that. You know, instead of me saying, hey guys, we're gonna exercise, I start exercising, I have more energy, I feel good, I look good. And all of a sudden my husband is like, okay, I'm gonna go exercise too. That's it. So this is where you want to lead by your example. You want to give them information. You might make it fun, where I had a Fitbit challenge with my whole family. I gave everybody a Fitbit and we're gonna all try to do 10,000 steps. And those who get 10,000 can only have dessert this one day of the week. And so this is what you can do. You can sort of gamify that, but in the end, there's nothing more you can do. You can't persuade people. You can only inspire them. And you inspire them by being different. So let's see. Some people said that NLP is a tool set that's proven to quickly change your habits. You know what? There's not a lot of evidence on NLP, but I'm like all for anything that works. There's, you know, all sorts of placebo effects that kick into place. If it's NLP, XYZ, doesn't matter. If it works for you, do it. And I engage in energy healing, yoga, anything. I'll do anything at this point to make myself more aligned. And if I've done hypnosis, someone has done hypnosis on me, just because I was like, well, why not? If it works, works. If it doesn't, at least I tried it. So I would encourage people to do all of it if you have the money and the time and the energy to do that. But nothing works unless you work, period. And you've got to work. You've still got to do everything that I've said, because you've still got to have a plan. You have to have a contingency plan. You have to troubleshoot. You have to set an intention. You have to set some goals. You have to plan it. You've got to do this. You can't be like, oh, I got hypnotized and maybe something will happen. No, it doesn't work. Nothing works unless you work. So somebody said, how do you maintain enthusiasm when you're doing repetitive things? And so, for example, you've done this webinar before, but you don't seem to get bored with the idea. You know what? Every time I do a webinar, I read about it. I read another book, I read more research. So it always remains new for me. And I like to stay in the moment, and I can just sort of draw energy from that. And so I think it's important that you just make room for boredom. You know, I had a whole therapy session a couple days ago, which I probably will talk about on my Instagram, which is that this whole idea of doing, being felt like death for me. Really, like boredom, like not doing something was like, no, like this is just not how we are programmed. Everything in our life, from the second we are born, we should be doing something, right? And so this idea of being can feel so boring that it feels like a existential moment of like the end for us. And then we fill it with something, and then we fill it with something, and then we fill it with something. So don't be enthusiastic, just do it anyway. I'm sure you're not enthusiastic about brushing your teeth every day. Like, I'm not, but I just do it because it's just the good thing to do. So link it to your values, link it to your identity, and then just do it. Just do it. And I think that needs to be the motto for everyone. Just do it. You don't have to want it. You don't have to be motivated by it. You don't have to be enthusiastic about it. You don't have to be excited about it. Just do it. And eventually you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it. You build enough momentum where all of a sudden you get excited by it. On this particular topic, I just get really excited about habits and, you know, wellness. And so I don't have to dig deep for that because it's just an exciting thing for me to do. I get a lot of energy from presenting. I get a lot of energy from answering questions. I get a lot of energy from sharing information and hearing questions as to what people are struggling with and what their questions are. So it's like a thing that starts to feed me. But yeah, it is something, when you do what you love, the energy sort of comes and the enthusiasm almost comes. Let's see. I think I answered a lot. So how can we make time management a habit when overloaded with the work of duty and, you know, with work and family and things like that? Yeah, I mean, I think this is, if you know how to manage your time, you know how to manage your life. And if you know about your energy, what gives you energy, what takes away energy, what needs energy, then you know how to manage your time. So I think it really does, just everything becomes, everything begins with awareness of self. I have a lot of time. I can say, oh my God, I have a lot of time, but I don't have a lot of energy because everything I'm doing, I live with my in-laws, I live with my parents, I live with 4 children, I have a husband who works a lot, I work a lot, I have a clinic, I'm managing people. Okay, this is a heavy life. And so what gives energy, what takes energy? I might have, you know, 100 and whatever hours a week, but I cannot fill every one of those hours because I have 3 teenagers and they require a lot of energy. So I might not pack my day fully because that energy is not there at the end of it. And so it's very, very important to know your energy levels. On Sunday, you might have high energy. On Monday, you might have low energy. On Wednesday, you're like, I'm almost there. I do a lot on Wednesdays because I have just get this boost of energy because we're almost at the weekend. So just know your rhythm, know your flow, just like the moon waxes and wanes and there's a full moon and a small moon and the waves move along with it. You also move along with the week. On Sunday, you have this energy. On Thursday, you have this. On Friday, you have that. Know yourself before you book something in. I don't want to do anything on Friday mornings. And so when someone books anything for me, I'm like, nope, sorry, I'm not doing breakfast. I don't want to talk to anybody before 1 p.m. I know myself. And there are times where I've gone to Zurich and I've studied there in Zurich and my brain shut. I've automated myself to such a place where literally my brain doesn't turn on Fridays and everything in my body is saying, stay in bed, do nothing. And that's just not how Zurich works on a Friday. So it's just basically understanding who you are, what you need, what you want, what gives energy, what takes energy, what requires a lot of energy, and then moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it. Because my kids needed less energy from me. To be honest, it's super easy for me to manage kids. I'm like a good manager. Now my kids need a lot more. There's 3 teenagers, all have their own cycles and things going on. And I have a 5-year-old. And so they're going to require a little bit more me watching them. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's going on? I have less energy. So I'm going to have to find other channels of energy and then not book myself senseless and then think I'm going to exercise at the end of the day. Ain't going to happen. It literally is not going to happen if I put it at the end of the day. So that's that. Fit Mind is not showing up in Play Store. It might not be a Play Store app, guys. It might just be an iPhone. It's literally called Fit Mind. It's right there, right? Okay, so it's like a big blue circle. Okay, I think if you guys listen, guys, if you don't if I didn't answer your question, please message me on Instagram. Oop, hello, there's my Instagram right there, at Dr. Saliha Afridi. I also have done these talks for on YouTube. They're on there. Sort of anxiety, healthy mind. These are on there. So if you guys want to like inspire other people, you guys can just go on there and put stuff on there every now and then. So you guys can do that. I put a lot of this stuff on Instagram as well. And so if I didn't get to your question, please please message me on Instagram and I promise you I will answer it. Okay. Somebody mentioned the platform for emotional intelligence. It's for kids. It's a board game, but trust me, I've played that game with adults and they've learned just the same. So it's at Smart Heart Board Game. One word, at Smart Heart Board Game is the channel there. I had a whole video on, somebody asked about meditation materials. So I have, for October, my challenge of the month was meditation. So I have a lot of content on there on my Instagram on meditation. And I even did an Instagram live on meditation. What does it mean? What does it look like? What do you do? How do you do it? And so, meditation for people who can't meditate, which is me. And so that you might find it helpful. And then the other one that I did, which I really was like, wow, that was a pretty good session, which is the one on emotions. Like, how do you feel? Like when people say you need to feel it, I was like, what does that even mean? And so how to feel feelings is one of the Instagram lives that I did a month or two ago. And so I want you to watch that. It's a 1 hour video, but I go through 7 things you need to do in order to feel feelings. And that one would be really good for men, because a lot of men ask me, like, I don't know, what do you mean feel feelings? Like, what does that even mean? Overthinking, people have asked me about. I have content on my Instagram for that. Recording is there. Prayer is not considered meditation, guys. Meditation is where prayer can be a meditative thing, but your brain is actually engaged in a certain way of saying or doing things. But for example, dhikr, for those of you who are follow the Islamic tradition, the dhikr is actually considered meditation, where you're actually meditating on one of God's names. So Om, for the Hindus, they have Om, and all these other mantras. Those are considered meditative exercises. Prayer is actually where you're having a conversation with God, which is different from meditation. All right, I think I answered everybody. You guys will get a link to this video, and I would love to hear your questions, or if you want me to talk about other things on Instagram, I would be very happy to talk about those things as well. So thank you guys all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Bye.